Here is a very uncommon pair of two pretty unusual Lasko box fans. The one on the left is a 2001, I believe, 2002 model 3747 weather shield. Very early model. And the one on the right is from 2015 to 2016. That was just older than I thought it was. And I'm not sure what the model number is because the information is too hard to read. I'll look it up and post it in the video box. So these are about 15 years apart. And what's intriguing about them is that the design is nearly identical. And I've been wanting to get these on video side by side since I found that one a couple of years ago. And I've never used these side by side, so this is a first time experience here. Now there exists a model that is even more identical to this one than this one is, and it would be the Lasko Ultra Force from the very late 90s. I'm going to say 98 or 99 only. And that was the one that had the pedal blades, the Marco motor, and a control set very similar to this. This one has the basic controls, but I'm using this one for the video because these are mechanically more identical. Both of these feature the PSC motor, so this is very much an apples to apples comparison. This one is the recalled PSC motor. There is no fuse plug, and you can see that this guard is one of the leftover guards that would have fit on the Marco motor models. And then this one is the newer, I think it's an 8-pole PSC motor. Fused plug, of course. And they're just so similar. It's really interesting how after so many years this design reincarnated, because these disappeared in somewhere in the early to mid 2000s, and where the design was just non-existent for almost a decade until these surfaced. And it's a shame that these were not sold for longer than they were, because these are probably the best box fans made in the last 2 decades, and these are exceptional. This handle still exists 20 years later, which is intriguing, actually more than 20 years later. This, I believe, was called the Weather Shield Select, although it doesn't say it here. It's 3-speed with the thermostat control. Very interesting. There's definitely a handful of designs that both Air King and Lasko have held on to, particularly Air King. A lot of Air King's designs have been on the market for a long time. So let's get these things going and take a look at the performance. Kilowatt meter here. Abysmally, I cannot find my other 2 kilowatt meters. I own 3 of them and I can only find one. So we'll have to check them individually. Let's start with the old one. What I'm really interested to see is how does the performance differ on these things. I suspect the old one is going to move more air, but not by a drastic amount. And what is wrong with this kilowatt meter? Oh no. Is this not gonna work anymore? What the heck? Is my power bar busted? Oh, it's working now. Not good. Maybe my kilowatt meter is getting a little flaky. So we've got 119 volts right now. 119.8. And let's start this thing up. This one calls for 1.1 amps, which I believe is the same as the other one. So we'll go to amps, and we'll start up on low. I have this on. Let me turn this off. This is pretty quiet, but just for accuracy, turn that off. Okay, so this one is running now. It's pulling 0.7 amps, and it has that kind of annoying high frequency whirring sound to it that was found on the very early pedal blade models with the Marco motor, for example the 3733 from 98-99. In terms of power, it's very strong. It's very, very strong. I'm about 3 feet back from it, and there is a strong, steady breeze. And for the ear moved, it's actually pretty quiet. It's not bad. Runs very smooth. So we'll say the power draw is 0.68 amps, and went down a little bit. 82 the watts, the power factor of 1. Oh, it went down to 119.5 the volts. Yeah, that's why it went down to here. Alright, let's go to the medium. Hopefully this doesn't tip over. I don't think it will. Oh, that's one other thing I should have mentioned. Cabinet sizes. They're not identical. Cabinets, the new one is slightly smaller. Not by a whole lot, but just slightly. Okay, that's medium, 0.92 amps, 91 amps, 109 watts with a power factor of 1. That's a good motor. And this sounds very similar to the 1999 or 2000 3733 that I grew up with. Definitely moves a lot more air, but it sounds very similar. And this is just exceptionally powerful. It's already overwhelmingly powerful. Very, very strong feel. Alright, now we're going to go into the uncharted territory of high speed. Make sure it doesn't tip over. That's 1.2 amps, 135 watts, power factor of 0.93. And this is just unbelievable. I think this has got to be one of the most powerful plastic box fans available. Or, it's not available anymore, but ever made. This thing is no joke. It's whipping the air out. That's insane.
Easily one of the most powerful box fans, plastic blade box fans I've ever used. Easily. I would actually go as far as to say this outperforms some of the older models from Lakewood, like the 223. I think this is much stronger in terms of air velocity. It's probably got a good volume to it too. It's a very steady and consistent breeze. Excellent box speed. Okay. Now onto this one. Okay, we'll start off on low. So that is 0.61 amps. A little bit less power, but not much. 73 the watts, the power factor of 0.99. And this is still very strong. It's moving a pretty solid, consistent stream of air. It sounds like it's a little bit louder. The sound is definitely different. This one I think produces a little bit of a lower pitch sound. It too seems to run pretty smooth and constant. The badge is actually in the center of the blade, which is nice. That seems to be something that Lasko struggles with. For instance, the pismal. Okay, let's go up to medium. That is 0.75 amps, 90 watts, and a power factor of 0.99. And for something made recently, this is exceptionally powerful. It's not quite as overwhelming as the other one was, but it's still very strong. It's not far behind. And it's heavy enough that it won't tip over, which is nice. So on high, that's 0.91 amps, so it's considerably less power. 102 the watts, the power factor of 0.94. So the newer PSC motors are slightly less powerful, but not by all that much. And the high speed on this, it's not bad. It's not quite as strong. I think the air has a little bit more buffeting effect to it, which is weird because it's pretty much the same blade. But it's still exceptionally powerful. And it even has kind of like a high velocity sound to it. Okay, now, at least what I've been waiting for, to power them on both simultaneously. I wish I had both kilowatt meters, but that's, I just don't. Okay, we'll start it up on low. And so now this is where we're really going to get our comparison. It looks to me like the newer one is running considerably faster. I don't know how well this will pick up on the camera, but yeah, it's not picking up that well, but it looks like it's going a little bit faster. Actually, you can see the blade, the refresh rate on the blades is different on the camera. The newer one is definitely going faster. From the camera's distance from the VNs. Oh, that's interesting. The airflow from the older one feels stronger but has more buffeting to it, whereas the newer one, it's a little bit weaker, but it's a more steady stream of air. And they have completely different sounds to them. And right up close to it, this one is much stronger. Well, maybe not much stronger, but it is a little bit stronger. This video is being recorded in stereo, so you might be able to hear the difference between these two VNs. The old one is picking up a little bit more airflow now, but it's not by much. It's still pretty close. Yeah, it's definitely very close. From a distance, they start to feel kind of similar after a while. I think the newer one, the air might travel a better distance. Which is interesting because right up close I think the old one still feels a little bit stronger. Now on high, the old one has totally taken the lead. You can hear the sound, well I can hear the sound difference. The old one has got a lot more RPMs to it than the new one does. Yeah, the old one is blowing this new one away now. They're both very powerful, but the old one's definitely winning on high. I'm surprised though, the medium and low are not that much different. Now once we get back here, the airflow kind of feels a little bit more similar. I get a little more from the old one, but I do think the newer one throws the air further, which is very intriguing considering the similarities of the guard and the blades. This old one definitely has a little more power on high. There's just a ton of air moving right now. Well, that was a very interesting comparison. They're more similar than I kind of expected they would be. You know, a lot of cheapening out happened between 2001 and 2015, and surprisingly, this newer weather shield from 2015 is just about on par with the old one. And the old one gives you a little more on high, but very, very similar.